Congressman Kinzinger, thank you for joining us. I want to ask you, Benny Thompson, the chair of the committee, said that there will be many subpoenas issued as part of this investigation and issued soon. Who do you expect that we'll see subpoenaed to appear before the committee?
Well, I don't want to get into naming names at this point. I think what we need to know is what happened. So if you look at it, what is it going to take to find out what happened? It's going to take talking to a lot of people. It's going to take thorough investigations. We want to do this expeditiously. We want to get to the answer. We don't want to drag this out. But we want to know, I think this is kind of like the shot we have as a country to get answers to what led up to it, what really happened, and what happened in the aftermath. And so I would expect to see a significant number of subpoenas for a lot of people. But I think the bigger thing is just what is the message that's going to come out of this is that the American people deserve the truth. They need the truth. Even if there's some folks on some TV channels that don't want to talk about it, the truth needs to be out there for even those folks' kids to know in the future. So it's going to be a thorough investigation, that's for sure. One
of the big questions is what Donald Trump was up to in the White House as this riot was unfolding. Liz Cheney has suggested, including in an interview on This Week, that anybody who spoke to Donald Trump during those hours should come and testify before the committee. She suggested it could even mean subpoenas, a subpoena for Kevin McCarthy. And now we've learned Jim Jordan also talked to Donald Trump on January 6th. Would you support subpoenas to the Republican leader in the House and to Jim Jordan?
I would support subpoenas to anybody that can shed light on that. If that's the leader, that's the leader. If it's anybody that talked to the president that can provide us that information, I want to know what the president was doing every moment of that day. After he said, I'm going to walk with you to the Capitol. After Mo Brooks stood up and said, we're going to kick backside and take names. Today's the day that, patriots take their country back from other people. I want to know what they were doing because that's going to be important. I want to know, if the National Guard took 5 or 6 hours to get to Capitol Hill, did the president make any calls? And if he didn't, why? And if he did, of course, then how come the National Guard still takes 5 hours? I think had the president picked up the phone and made a call, the Guard would have been there immediately. This is stuff that we can't, sweep under the rug of that was a whole 7 months ago, history that some people are trying to do because it's politically inconvenient. If anybody's scared of this investigation, I ask you one question. What are you afraid of? I mean, either you're afraid of being discovered, of having some culpability in it, or, what? If you think it wasn't a big deal, then you should allow this to go forward. So it is essential for history, for the American people, for truth, that we get to the bottom of this. I think anybody with parts of that information, with inside knowledge, can probably expect to be talking to the committee.
So if somebody like Kevin McCarthy, who clearly has some of that knowledge, and Jim Jordan, who seems to have some of that knowledge, refuse to testify, refuse to comply with subpoenas if it comes with that, I don't think we've ever had a situation like that. How could you how would you enforce a subpoena for a fellow member of Congress? Would there be like a vote of contempt, or what? How would you do it?
Yeah, I think that's a question more for the lawyers that know what constitutional, I guess, trigger mechanisms or enforcement mechanisms are there. I'll say this. I intend, at least on the committee, to get to a full accounting of the truth. And if somebody thinks that they can stand up and use, maneuvers to try to string this investigation out and hope that people lose interest and hope that they can resist, at least me, and I know the other members of the committee, are determined that we are going to get to that answer. So it may cost you a lot in legal fees to try to resist, but we're going to get to that answer. I don't know what, specific things we can do to compel. And I'm not even sure where this investigation is going to lead, who we're going to need to talk to. But I do know that the facts are going to lead where the facts lead to, and we're going to have a full accounting of that.
Well, based on what you've said, it seems clear that you would want to talk to Donald Trump himself. Am I right?
Well, I don't know. Again, it's going to depend where the facts lead. We may not even have to talk to Donald Trump to get the information. There were tons of people around him. There were tons of people involved in the things that led up to January 6th. Obviously, if you talk to the president, the former president, that's going to have a whole new set of kind of like, everything associated with it. So when I look at that, I'm like, maybe, but I know that we're going to get to the information. If he has unique information, that's one thing. But I think there's a lot of people around him that knew some things.
All right, and I have to ask you, but before this hearing, you kicked off this first hearing, the Republican leadership held a press conference where they placed blame for the riot on Nancy Pelosi. I want to play you a sound from the conference chair, Elise Stefanik.
The American people deserve to know the truth, that Nancy Pelosi bears responsibility as Speaker of the House for the tragedy that occurred on January 6th.
I mean, my God, they've protected Donald Trump from blame here, and they're blaming Nancy Pelosi for the fact that Trump supporters invaded the Capitol and including her office. Can you explain to me what they're talking about?
Yeah, to me, it's mind-blowing, and it basically shows the desperation to try to derail this. Now, if you think about the different audiences that exist, there's the audience of the American people, and then there's the audience of Donald Trump. All Donald Trump needs to see is that you're making a defense no matter how nonsensical that defense is. So if that defense goes from, of course we all know it was Trump supporters and it was QAnon types that launched to this insurrection on the 6th. But if you stand in front of the proper news channel that Donald Trump watches and you say, this is Nancy Pelosi's fault, you've just done your job. It doesn't matter if it doesn't even make any sense anymore. What matters is that you've said something to placate him. And so, look, I mean, the speaker and I don't get along on a lot of things. On this case, we do, which is we need answers. It's been 7 months. It's time to get to the bottom of this. And by the way, blaming what happened on January 6th on the security posture, and certainly we're going to get to the bottom of the security posture, but that's like blaming somebody for being the victim of a crime when the perpetrator actually executed that crime. It's insane. And this is where we have to take back the narrative, particularly speaking as a fellow conservative to conservatives. It's like, we can't do this alone. That's why I started Country First, country1st.com, to just say, let's take back, let's mend division in this country and actually get back to telling the truth to people instead of being able to stand up and say, it's Nancy Pelosi's fault and know that Donald Trump's happy and the truth doesn't matter.
All right, Adam Kinzinger, Republican of Illinois, thank you for joining us. We appreciate the time.